Good morning, YouTubers. My name is Nubia. I am in recovery. I am reading out of the Life Recovery Bible, all the way from Anoka, Minnesota. Today we are continuing in the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes. And chapter 2. The futility of pleasure. All right. Father God, please allow me to read clearly and slow, speak clearly and slow, and think clearly and slow so I can clearly relay your message. Thank you. Amen. Yeah. A big boy. A big boy. A big boy. Chapter 2. The futility of pleasure. I said to myself, come on, let's try pleasure. Let's look for the good things in life. But I found that this, too, was meaningless. So I said, laughter is silly. What good does it do to seek pleasure? After much thought, I decided to share myself with wine. And while still seeking wisdom, I clutched at foolishness. In this way, I tried to experience the only happiness most people find during the brief life in this world. I also tried to find meaning by building huge homes for myself and by planting beautiful vineyards. I made gardens and parks, filling them with all kinds of fruit trees. I built reservoirs to collect the water to irrigate my many flourishing groves. I bought slaves, both men and women, and others were born into my household. I also owned large herds and flocks, more than any of the kings who had lived in Jerusalem before me. I collected great sums of silver and gold, the treasure of many kings and provinces. I hired wonderful singers, both men and women, and had many beautiful concubines. I had everything a man could desire. So I became greater than all who had lived in Jerusalem before me, and my wisdom never failed me. Anything I wanted, I would take. I denied myself no pleasure. I even found great pleasure in hard work and reward for all my labors. But as I looked at everything I had worked so hard to accomplish, it was all so meaningless, like chasing the wind. There was nothing really worthwhile anywhere. The wise and the foolish. So I decided to compare wisdom with foolishness and madness. For who can do this better than I, the king? I thought, wisdom is better than foolishness, just as light is better than darkness. For the wise can see where they are going, but fools walk in the dark. Yet I saw that the wise and the foolish share the same fate. Both will die. I said to myself, since I will end up the same as the fool, what's the value of my wisdom? This is also meaningless, for the wise and the foolish both die. The wise will not be remembered any longer than the fool in the days to come. Both will be forgotten. So I came to hate life because everything done under the sun is so troubling. Everything is meaningless, like chasing the wind. The futility of work. I came to hate all my hard work here on earth, for I must leave to others everything I have earned. And who can tell whether my successors will be wise or foolish? Yet they will control everything I have gained by my skill and hard work under the sun. How meaningless. So I gave up in despair, questioning the value of all my hard work in this world. Some people work wisely with knowledge and skill, then must leave the fruit of their efforts to someone who hasn't worked for it. This too is meaningless, a great tragedy. So what do people get in life for all their hard work? And anxiety? Their days of labor are filled with pain and grief. Even at night, their minds cannot rest. It is so meaningless. So I decided there is nothing better than to enjoy food and drink and to find satisfaction in work. Then I realized that these pleasures are from the hand of God, for who can eat or enjoy anything apart from Him? God gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy to those who please Him. But if a sinner becomes wealthy, God takes the wealth away and gives it to those who please Him. This too is meaningless, like chasing the wind. Footnote. The teacher tried the pleasure escapes of laughter and alcohol. Had drugs been available in his day as they are now, he may also have tried them. But these things ultimately couldn't satisfy his search for meaning. Seeking to escape our pain through pleasure leads to substance abuse and addiction. Only God can give us the strength and purpose for a meaningful life. We need to trust Him and patiently follow His program for healthy living. The teacher next tried to find meaning in building a personal empire. After experiencing incredible success, however, he concluded that it did not give ultimate meaning to his life. All the pieces of life's puzzles didn't fit together. Many of us have made success the basis for finding meaning in life. We are driven to higher and higher goals only to find emptiness in each new success. Many of us even put off recovery, fearing that it might interfere with our career. We need to realize that true success can only be found in seeking God's help in recovery. He alone is able to give meaning to our broken lives. Yeah. The alternative to neurotic commitment to work is the enjoyment of life as God's good gift. This includes enjoying our work while not allowing it to become the key to meaning in our lives. This is the first of the teacher's admonitions, to take life less seriously and enjoy it more. Life is too short to waste on the treadmill or ever increasing professional. No. Life is too short to waste on the treadmill of ever-increasing professional accomplishments. In the larger scheme of things, our accomplishment will not last. We need to take the time to enjoy the gift that God gives us. Chapter 3, a time for everything. Chapter 3, a time for everything. For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to scatter stone and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to turn away, a time to search and a time to quit searching, a time to keep and time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be quiet and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What do people really get for all their hard work? I have seen the burden God has placed on us all. Yet God has made everything beautiful for its own time. He has planted eternity in the human heart. But even so, People cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. So I concluded there is nothing better than to be happy and enjoy ourselves as long as we can. And people should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of their labor, for these are gifts from God. And I know that whatever God does, it's final. Nothing can be added to it or taken from it. God's purpose is that people should fear Him. What is happening now has happened before, and what will happen in the future has happened before, because God makes the things happen over and over again. The injustices of life. I also noticed that under the sun there is evil in the courtroom. Yes, even the courts of law are corrupt. I said to myself, in due season, God will judge everyone, both good and bad, for all their needs. I had to write that down. I'll remember that. I forgot my notebook. Ecclesiastes 3:16 and 17. I also thought about the human condition, how God proved to people that they are like animals. For people and animals must die. For people and animals share the same fate. Both breathe and both must die. So people have no real advantage over the animals. How meaningless. Both to go to the same place. They came from dust and they return to dust. For who can prove that the human spirit goes up and the spirit of animals goes down into the earth? So I saw that there is nothing better for people than to be happy in their work. That is our lot in life, and no one can bring us back to see what happens after we die. Footnote. Analyzing each of these times will most likely miss the teacher's point. These are figures of speech that present two opposite extremes and include the entire spectrum between them. For instance, there is a time to be born and a time to die, but the emphasis is on the lifetime in between. There is a time for everything because God has set the times. All of life is part of a well-orchestrated symphony for which God has written the music. An essential part of recovery is seeking out God's plan for us and then following it. Here, the teacher gives us a practical alternative to the desperate search for ultimate meaning in life. We are to responsibly enjoy life as God's good gift to us. The teacher wanted people to enjoy life more and to spend less time and energy trying to make sense of it all. Verse 14 sets parameters around our enjoyment of life. Everything we do must be done in recognition that God is in charge. Our actions should demonstrate our respect for Him. This will prevent our enjoyment of life from becoming selfish hedonism. Yeah. Recovery principle, devotional. Denial. Read Ecclesiastes 3, verses 16, and then 4, verses 1. Denial. Some of us avoid or cope with our own pain by trying to fix the world. We try to right every wrong, heal every wound, point out every injustice. We spend our time demanding that the world system reform. We may also dedicate our life to rescuing and reforming those we love. Our seriousness to set the world right can be a means of denying that we are powerless to do so. Solomon said, I also noticed that under the sun there is evil in the courtroom. Yes, even the courts of law are corrupt. I said to myself, in due season, God will judge everyone, both good and bad, for all their deeds. I observed all the oppression that takes place under the sun. I saw the tears of the oppressed, with no one to confront them. The oppressors have great power, and their victims are helpless. Solomon saw that the world was not as it should be. He also recognized that it was ultimately God's job to judge the injustices in our world. When we set out to save the world, we err by taking a role that belongs to God. What we gain by taking on such a massive task is the guarantee that we will always be busy. Then we will never have the time or energy to face our own issues. The Bible makes it clear that the world will never be right until Jesus Christ returns to make it so. We need to accept the fact that we are powerless to do his job. This does not mean that we should turn a blind eye to the world's problems. When we focus on our own recovery, fixing our problems instead of everyone else, we will be more effective in helping others. Amen. I needed to hear that. Chapter 4. Again, I observed all the oppression that takes place under the sun. I saw the tears of the oppressed, with no one to comfort them. The oppressors have great power, and their victims are helpless. So I concluded that the dead are better off than the living. But most fortunate of all are those who are not yet born, but they have not seen all the evil that is done under the sun. Then I observed that most people are motivated to success because they envy their neighbors, but this too is meaningless, like chasing the wind. Fools fold their idle hands, leading them to ruin. And yet, better to have one handful with quietness than two handfuls with hard work and chasing the wind. The advantages of companionship. I observed yet another example of something meaningless under the sun. This is the case of a man who is all alone, without a child or a brother, yet who works hard to gain as much wealth as he can. But then he asks himself, who am I working for? Why am I giving up so much pleasure now? It is also meaningless and depressing. Two people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help, but someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, two people lying close together can keep each other warm, but how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attracted and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. The futility of power, or political power. The futility of political power. It is better to be a poor but wise youth than an old and foolish king who refuses old advice. Such a youth could rise from poverty and succeed. He might even become king, though he has been in prison. But then everyone rushes to the side of yet another youth who replaces him. Endless crowds stand around him, but then another generation grows up and rejects him too. So it is all meaningless, like chasing the wind. Footnote. Supportive friends and healthy relationships are absolutely necessary for successful recovery. When we fall down, we need help to get up again. If we stand alone, we are especially vulnerable to inner enemies. We must learn to trust others, to reach out to others, and to admit our need for others. This will give us added strength, wisdom, and protection against our dependencies and compulsions. Climbing the ladder of success will never unlock the door to life's meaning. Success is always temporary. Someone else will inherit our work, and ultimately it will be forgotten. We must avoid the trap of living for success. Our relationships with God and with other people are of far greater importance. Reconciling and building our relationships will lead to true success and joy. Chapter 5. Approaching God with care. As you enter the house of God, keep your ears open and your mouth shut. It is evil to make mindless offerings to God. Don't make rash promises and don't be hasty in bringing matters before God. After all, God is in heaven and you are here on earth, so let your words be few. Too much activity gives you restless dreams. Too many words make you a fool. When you make a promise to God, don't delay in following through, for God takes no pleasure in fools. Keep all the promises you make to Him. It is better to say nothing than to make a promise and not keep it. Don't let your mouth make you sin, and don't defend yourself by telling the temple messenger that the promise you made was a mistake. That will make God angry, and He might wipe out everything you have achieved. Talk is cheap, like daydreams and other useless activities. Fear God instead. The futility of wealth. Don't be surprised if you see a poor person being oppressed by the powerful, and if justice is being miscarried throughout the land. For every official is under orders from higher up, and matters of justice get lost in red tape and bureaucracy. Even the king milks the lands for his own profit. Those who love money will never have enough. How meaningless to think that wealth brings through happiness. The more you have, the more people come to help you spend it. So what good is health? Except perhaps to watch it slip through your fingers. People who work hard sleep well, whether they eat little or much, but the rich seldom get a good night's sleep. There is another serious problem I have seen under the sun. Hoarding riches harms the saver. Money is put into risky investments that turn sour, and everything is lost. In the end, there is nothing left to pass on to one's children. We all come to the end of our lives as naked and empty-handed as on the day we were born. We can't take our riches with us. And this, too, is a very serious problem. People leave this world no better off than when they came. All their hard work is for nothing, like working for the wind. Throughout their life, they live under a cloud, frustrated, discouraged, and angry. Even so, I have noticed one thing, at least, that is good. It is good for people to eat, drink, and enjoy their work under the sun during the short life God has given them, and to accept their lot in life. And it is a good thing to receive wealth from God and good health to enjoy it. To enjoy your work and accept your lot in life, this is needed. This is a gift from God. God keeps such people so busy enjoying life that they take no time to brood over the past. Come here, big boy. Big boy. Big boy. You're not listening? Psst, psst, psst. Big boy. Oh, I'm calling you, big boy. Okay. Footnote. The teacher here addressed living to accumulate wealth, as it is true for all addictions. Enough is never enough. This is one reason wealth is not the key to happiness and meaning in life. Here we are given additional reasons to avoid searching for wealth. The more money we have, the more we spend, saving nothing. The greater our financial one, the more money we have, the more we spend, saving nothing. 2, the greater our financial empire, the more we will worry about it. 3, we can't take any of it with us when we die. God never intended for us to live for our possessions. We need to make our relationships with God and others our primary concern. Chapter 6. 12-step devotional, step 8, overcoming loneliness. Bible reading, Ecclesiastes 4. We made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Loneliness and isolation go along with the guilt and shame we feel about who we are or what we have done. We may feel so cut off from others that we feel lonely even when we are around other people. Guilt, fear of being hurt, and self-hatred can make us unable to believe in the love others gave for us. We can feel all alone in the struggle even when there are people besides us who want to help. Being willing to accept their love is part of the preparation for making amends. Wise King Solomon observed, 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other one can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, 2 people lying close together can keep each other warm. But how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but 2 can stand back to back and conquer. 3 are even better for a triple braided cord. For a triple braided cord is not easily broken. Loneliness can break us and defeat us in the recovery process. When we prepare to make amends, we also need to prepare our hearts to accept whatever love, support, or friendship is offered in return. These supportive relationships, along with God's supporting hand, will strengthen our lives considerably. With our friends and God join us to form a triple braided cord, we will not be easily broken or turned from the path of recovery. All right, I am gonna pause it for 1 second. I gotta switch sides. Welcome back. All right, much better. There we go. Chapter 6. See, this is what ADHD does. You know, I can't stand still. I want to read, and I gotta keep moving and like readjusting every 2 seconds or something. Not really. Yeah, really. Chapter 6. There is another serious tragedy I have seen under the sun, and it weighs heavily on humanity. God gives some people great wealth and honor and everything they could ever want, but then He doesn't give them the chance to enjoy these things. They die, and someone else, even a stranger, ends up enjoying their wealth. This is meaningless and sickening tragedy. This is meaningless as sickening tragedy. A man might have 100 children and live to be very old, but if he finds no satisfaction in life, and doesn't even get a decent burial, it would have been better for him to be born dead. His birth would have been meaningless. And it's a fly. His birth would have been meaningless, and he would have ended in darkness. He wouldn't even have had a name, and he would have never have seen the sun or known of his existence. Yet he would have had more peace than in growing up to be an unhappy man. He might live 1,000 years twice over, but still not find contentment, and since he must die like everyone else, well, what's the use? All people spend their lives scratching for food, but they never seem to have enough. So are wise people really better off than fools? Do poor people gain anything by being wise and knowing how to act in front of others? Enjoy what you have rather than desiring what you don't have. I'm gonna write that one too. So this one is chapter 6, 9. Yeah. Enjoy what you have rather than desiring what you don't have. Just dreaming about nice things is meaningless, like chasing the wind. The future determined and unknown. Determined and unknown. The future determined and unknown. Everything has already been decided. It was known long ago what each person would be. So there's no use arguing with God about your destiny. The more words you speak, the less they mean. So what good are they? In the few days of our meaningless life, who knows how our days can be spent? Our lives are... Okay. In the few days of our meaningless lives, who knows how our days can be spent? Our lives are like a shadow. Who can tell what will happen on this earth after we're gone? Footnote. Sometimes our situation seems hopeless. No matter what we do, everything seems painful and ultimately meaningless. Who knows how our days can be best spent? We certainly don't, but God does. If we faithfully follow His program for healthy living, we can have hope for the future. We need to recognize our hopeless state and place our life in God's hands. We often allow our lack of understanding or lack of material resources to discourage us. We should realize that if we trust and obey God, our lack of understanding or wealth need not get in the way of rich and joyful life. Yeah. Chapter 7. There you go. Now you see me, now you don't. Such a beautiful day. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Somebody was talking last night about the bluish of the sky. All right. Chapter 7. Wisdom for life. A good reputation is more valuable than costly perfume. And the day you die is better than the day you were born. Better to spend your time at funerals than at parties. After all, everyone dies, so the living should take this to heart. Sorrow is better than laughter, for sadness has a refining influence on us. Doesn't it? A wise person thinks a lot about what... I have to write that one too. Chapter 7. So 7, 3. Sorrow is better than laughter, for sadness has a refining influence on us. A wise person thinks a lot about death, while a fool thinks only about having a good time. Better to be criticized by a wise person than to be praised by a fool. A fool's laughter is quickly gone, like thorns crackling in a fire. This also means meaningless. Extortion turns wise people into fools, and bribes corrupt the hearts. Finishing is better than starting. Patience is better than pride. Control your temper, for anger labels you a fool. Don't long for the good old days. This is not wise. Wisdom is even better when you have money. Both are benefits as you go through life. Wisdom and money can get you almost anything, but only wisdom can save your life. Accept the way God does things, for who can strain what He has made crooked? That one too. 13. Accept the way God does things, for who can straighten what He has made crooked? 7:13. Wow. Enjoy prosperity while you can, but when hard times strike, realize that both come from God. Remember that nothing is certain in this life. The limits of human wisdom. %. I'm gonna go till the battery runs out. I have seen everything in this meaningless life, including the death of good young people and the long life of wicked people. So don't be too good or too wise. Why destroy yourself? On the other hand, don't be too wicked either. Don't be a fool. Why die before your time? Pay attention to these instructions, for anyone who fears God will avoid both extremes. One wise person is stronger than 10 leading citizens of a town. Not a single person on earth is always good and never sins. Don't eavesdrop on others. You may hear your servant curse you, for you know how often yourself have cursed others. I have always tried my best to let wisdom guide my thoughts and actions. I said to myself, I am determined to be wise, but it didn't work. Wisdom is always distant and difficult to find. I searched everywhere, determined to find wisdom and to understand the reasons for things. I was determined to prove to myself that wickedness is stupid and that foolishness is madness. I discovered that a seductive woman is a trap more bitter than death. Her passion is a snare, and her soft hands are chains. Those who are pleasing to God will escape her, but sinners will be caught in her snare. This is my conclusion, says the teacher. I discovered this after looking at the matter from every possible angle. Thoughts, though I have searched repeatedly, I have not found what I was looking for. Only one out of 1,000 men is virtuous, but not one woman. Dang it. That's what the Bible says. Uh-oh. Damn. What? Shit. But I did find this. God created people to be virtuous, but they can each turn to follow their own downward path. I can't believe this says that in the Bible. God. Seriously? Wow. All right. Footnote. The writing style of Ecclesiastes shifts radically here, as does the teacher's emphasis. The message is presented by using proverbs, short, pithy statements of wisdom. We are giving wisdom for coping with everyday life in a fallen world. The teacher's search for the meaning of life has essentially ended. God is in control of our world. He created it and the laws that govern it. So following his plan makes sense. Doing things his way will lead to harmony with God or the people and the world we live in. We will never understand everything about our world or why things happened. Some things in life will never make sense, but God is in control. By trusting him and obeying his plan for healthy living, we can live a productive and joyful life. Living at odds with God's plan will only lead to increased suffering and eventual destruction. Man, I needed to read this today. Thank you, God. See, this is why, yeah. Continue with the footnotes. We are to listen selectively, being careful about what we take to heart. Many of us grew up in a dysfunctional family and had to submit to constant negative criticism. Many of the messages we received just weren't true. We may need to stop listening to people who have been instrumental in destroying our self-esteem. This is not to say that we should filter our constructive criticism. We must learn to tell the difference between legitimate and false criticisms, which is necessary for making our personal moral inventory. This is not to say that we should filter out constructive criticism. We must learn to tell the difference between legitimate and false criticism, which is necessary for making our personal moral inventory. Indeed. Chapter 8. How wonderful to be wise, to analyze and interpret things. Wisdom lights up a person's face, softening its harshness. Obedience to the king. Obey the king since you vow to God and you would. Obey the king since you vow to God that you would. Don't try to avoid doing your duty, and don't stand with those who plot evil, for the king can do whatever he wants. His command is backed by great power. No one can resist or question it. Those who obey him will not be punished. Those who are wise will find a time and a way to do what is right. For there is a time and a way for everything, even when a person is in trouble. Indeed, how can people avoid what they don't know is going to happen? None of us can hold back our spirit from departing. None of us has the power to prevent the day of our death. There is no escaping that obligation, that dark battle. And in the face of death, wickedness would certainly not rescue the wicked. The wicked and righteous. The wicked and the righteous. My God, I love this book. I have thought deeply about all that goes on here under the sun, where people have the power to hurt each other. I have seen wicked people buried with honor, yet they were the very ones who frequented the temple and are now praised. No, wait. I have seen wicked people buried with honor, yet they were the very ones who frequented the temple and are now praised, in the same city where they committed their crimes. This too is meaningless. When a crime is not punished quickly, people feel it is safe to do wrong. When a crime is not punished quickly, people feel it's safe to do wrong. But even though a person sins 100 times and still lives a long time, I know that those who fear God will be better off. I have to write that too. 11. When a crime is not punished quickly, people feel it is safe to do wrong. 8, 11. But even though a person sins 100 times and still lives a long life, I know that those who fear God will be better off. The wicked will not prosper, for they do not fear God. Their days will never grow long, like the evening shadows. And this is not all that is meaningless in our world. In this life, good people are often treated as though they were wicked, and wicked people are often treated as though they were good. This is so meaningless. So I recommend having fun, because there is nothing better for people in this world than to eat, drink, and enjoy life. That way they can experience some happiness along with all the hard work God gives them under the sun. In my search for wisdom and in my observation of people's burdens here on earth, I discovered that there is ceaseless activity day and night. I realized that no one can discover everything God is doing under the sun. Not even the wisest people discover everything, no matter what they claim. Footnote. The teacher noticed something that just didn't make sense. Some just people suffer, and some wicked people prosper. Here we are advised not to trouble our minds with problems we cannot solve. We never have the whole picture. Only God knows the reasons behind everything. This should help us trust in God's plans for our lives. Knowing that we can trust God to lead us through life's ambiguities, we should enjoy the simple pleasures. Some things will never make sense, but we should enjoy what we can understand rather than despairing about the things we cannot. That's so smart. All right, chapter 9. Death comes to all. This too is carefully explored. Even though the actions of godly and wise people are God's hands, no one knows whether God will show them favor. The same destiny ultimately awaits everyone, whether righteous or wicked, good or bad, ceremonially clean or unclean, religious or irreligious. Good people receive the same treatment as sinners, and good people who make promises to God are treated like people who don't. It seems so wrong that everyone under the sun suffers the same fate, already twisted by evil. People choose their own mad course, for they have no hope. There is nothing ahead but death anyway. There is hope only for the living. As they say, it's better to be a live dog than a dead lion. The living at least know they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, nor are they remembered. Whatever they did in their lifetime, loving, hating, envying, is all long gone. They no longer play a part in anything here on earth. So go ahead, eat your food with joy and drink your wine with a happy heart, for God approves of this. Wear fine clothes with a splash of cologne. Live happily with the woman you love through all the meaningless days of life that God has given you under the sun. The wife God gives you is your reward for all your earthly toil. Whatever you do, do well, for when you go to the grave, there will be no work or planning or knowledge or wisdom. I have observed something else under the sun. The faster runner doesn't always win the race, and the stronger warrior doesn't always win the battle. The wise sometimes go hungry, and the skillful are not necessarily wealthy, and those who are educated don't always lead successful lives. It is all decided by chance, by being in the right place at the right time. It's a maple tree. Oh, wow. Wow. All right. Thoughts of wisdom and folly. Here is another bit of wisdom that has impressed me as I have watched the way our world works. There was a small town with only a few people, and a great king came with his army and besieged it. A poor wise man knew how to save the town, and so it was rescued. But afterward, no one thought to thank him. So, even though wisdom is better than strength, those who are wise will be despised if they are poor. What they say will not be appreciated for long. Better to hear the quiet words of a wise person than the shouts of a foolish king. Better to have wisdom than weapons of war. But one sinner can destroy much that is good. Footnote: because life is short, we should enjoy it fully. Whatever we do, we should do well. The teacher recognized that life under the sun was not the end of the story, but he never minimized the importance of our days here. God wants us to enjoy the friends and family he has given us. We may sometimes feel that our lives are insignificant in the larger scheme of things, but we need to realize that our everyday lives do make a difference. God will use us to touch the lives of others if we follow this program. This is one of the greatest lessons of recovery. Even though wisdom in itself cannot give meaning to our life, it is clearly preferred over foolishness. This reinforces the view that wisdom is not meaningless. It is an absolute sense. Though wisdom cannot put all the puzzle pieces of life together, it can help us to avoid destructive pitfalls and guide us to make godly day-to-day decisions. Chapter 10. A dead flies cause even a bottle of perfume to stink. A dead fly cause even a bottle of perfume to stink. I think that's a misspell. A dead fly. Oh, never mind. As if. All right. Chapter 10. A dead flies cause even a bottle of perfume to stink. So a little foolishness spoils great wisdom and honor. Wow. A wise person chooses the right road. A fool takes the wrong one. You can identify fools just by the way they walk down the street. If your boss is angry at you, don't quit. A quiet spirit can overcome even great mistakes. The ironies of life. There is another evil I have seen under the sun. Kings and rulers make a grave mistake when they give great authority to foolish people and low positions to people who proven worth. I have even seen servants riding horseback like princesses and princesses walking like servants. When you dig a well, you might fall in. When you demolish an old wall, you could be bitten by a snake. When you work in a quarry, stones might fall and crush you. When you chop wood, there is danger with each stroke of your axe. Using a dull axe requires great strength, so sharpen the blade. Wow. That's the value of wisdom. It helps you succeed. If a snake bites before you charm it, what's the use of being a snake charmer? Wise words bring approval, but fools are destroyed by their own words. Fools base their thoughts on foolish assumptions, so their conclusions will be wicked madness. They shatter on and on. No one really knows what is going to happen. No one can predict the future. Fools are so exhausted by a little work that they can't even find their way home. What sorrow for the land ruled by a servant, that the land whose leaders feast in the morning. The land whose leaders feast in the morning. Happy is the land whose king is a noble leader, and whose leaders feast at the proper time, to gain strength for the word, not to get drunk. Laziness leads to a sagging roof. Idleness leads to a leaky house. A party gives laughter, wine gives happiness, and money gives everything. Never make light of the king, even in your thoughts. And don't make fun of the powerful, even in your own bedroom. For a little bird might deliver your message and tell them what you said. So that's where the little bird thing comes from. Ah! Footnote. No footnote for 10. Chapter 11. The uncertainties of life. Send your grain. It's cold in the shade. It's like 10 degrees difference in the shade. All right. The uncertainties of life. Come on, son. Send your grain across the seas, and in time, profits will flow back to you. But divide your investments among many places, for you do not know what risks might lie ahead. When clouds are heavy, the rains come down. Whether a tree falls north or south, it stays where it falls. Farmers who wait for perfect weather never plant. If they watch every cloud, they never harvest. Just as you cannot understand the path of the wind or the mystery of a tiny baby growing in his mother's womb, so you cannot understand the activity of God, who does all things. Plant your seed in the morning and keep busy all afternoon, for you don't know if profit will come from one activity or another, or maybe both. That was it? Oh, wow. I guess. That's it. That was not really. Oi. Advice for young and old. Light is sweet. How pleasant to see a new day dawning. When people live to be very old, let them rejoice in every day of life. But let them also remember there will be many dark days. Everything still to come is meaningless. Young people, it's wonderful to be young. Enjoy every minute of it. Do everything you want to do. Take it all in. But remember that you must give an account to God for everything you do. So refuse to worry and keep your body healthy, but remember that youth with a whole life before you is meaningless. But remember that youth with a whole life before you is meaningless. Footnote. For the last time in this book, the teacher reminds us of the limits of our understanding in light of this. For the last time in this book, the teacher reminds us of the limits of our understandings. In light of this, he counsels diligence. Even though we do not know the outcome of our labor, we must keep busy. We will never understand all the events in our lives. We may never really understand our dependencies or compulsions, but God has given us instructions to follow. We need to be diligent as we obey our faithful and loving God. Chapter 12. Don't let the excitement of youth cause you to forget your Creator. Honor Him. Honor Him in your youth before you grow old and say, life is not pleasant anymore. Remember Him before the light of the sun, moon, and stars is dim to your old eyes, and rain clouds continually darken your sky. Remember Him before your legs, the guards of your house, start to tremble, and before your shoulders, the strong men stoop. Remember Him before your teeth, your few remaining servants stop grinding, and before your eyes, the women looking through the windows see dimly. Remember Him before the door to life's opportunities is closed and the sound of work fades. Now, you rise at the first chirping of the birds, but then other sounds will grow faint. Wow. Remember Him before you become fearful of falling and worry about danger in the streets, before your hair turns white like an almond tree in bloom, and you drag along without energy like a dying grasshopper, and the copperberry no longer inspires sexual desire. Remember Him before you near the grave, your everlasting home, when the mourners will weep at your funeral. Remember your Creator now, while you are young, before the silver cord of life snaps and the golden bowl is broken. Don't wait until the water jar is smashed at the spring and the pulley is broken at the well, for then the dust will return to the earth and the spirit will return to God who gave it. Concluding thoughts about the teacher. Everything is meaningless, says the teacher, completely meaningless. Keep this in mind. The teacher was considered wise, and he taught the people everything he knew. He listened carefully to many proverbs, studying and classifying them. The teacher sought to find just the right words to express truth clearly. The words of the wise are like cattle prods, painful but helpful. Their collected sayings are like a nail-studded stick with which a shepherd drives the sheep. But my child, let me give you some further advice. Be careful, for writing books is endless, and much study wears you out. That's the whole story. Here now is my final conclusion. Fear God and obey his commands? For this is everyone's duty. God will judge us for everything we do, including every secret thing, whether good or bad. I'm going to read that chapter again. That was a good chapter. Chapter 12. Don't let the excitement of youth cause you to forget your Creator. Honor him in your youth before you grow old and say, life is not pleasant anymore. Remember him before the light of the sun, moon, and stars dim to your old eyes, and rain clouds continually darken your sky. Remember him before your legs, the guards of your house, start to tremble, and before your shoulders, the strong men stoop. Remember him before your teeth, your few remaining servants stop grinding, and before your eyes, the women looking through the windows. The women looking through the windows see dimly. Remember him before the door to life's opportunities is closed and the sound of work fades. Now rise at the first shipping of the birds. Now you rise at the first shipping of the birds, but then other sounds will grow faint. Remember him before you become fearful of falling and worrying about danger in the streets. Before your hair turns white like an almond tree in bloom, and you drag along without energy like a dying grasshopper, and the copperberry no longer inspires sexual desire. Remember him before you near the grave, your everlasting home, when the mourners will weep at your funeral. Yes, remember your Creator now while you are young, before the silver cord of life snaps and the golden bowl is broken. Don't wait until the water yard is smashed at the spring and the pulley is broken at the well. For then the dust will return to the earth and the spirit will return to God who gave it. Wow. Footnote: our relationship with God is foundational for coping with life in a fallen world. We need to do more than just acknowledge a higher power. We need to make him the center of our life. Everything we do and say should be inspired by his presence in us. We are to remember God in our youth, because it gets harder to change as we get older. This is a call to immediate action. The younger, the better. The older we are, the more urgent it is for us to act. We need to seek out God's will and then do our best to follow it. This day began with the decision to get into a recovery program. This may begin with the decision to get into a recovery program. These verses describe the physical effects of aging. Eyesight is lost. The muscles and bones deteriorate. Hearing fades. Fear sets in, and vitality is lost. Our life becomes more and more fragile, and our bodies return to dust. Our addictions often cause these characteristics long before they would naturally happen. God desires that we experience the richest life possible, yet we can be sure that He will be with us as we face physical deterioration, just as He walked with us in our youth. These final verses remind us of the importance of our relationship with God as we live in this fallen world. Life is filled with ambiguity. There are many things that we will never understand, but God knows the big picture. He knows the future. If we follow His program, obeying His commandments with His help, we will discover joy amidst the ambiguity. As we seek to follow His will, we will discover the only path toward true recovery. Reflections on Ecclesiastes. That was short. That was short-lived. Figure. All right. Reflections on Ecclesiastes. Insight about working success. Ecclesiastes, the teacher, shows how living for personal success or pleasure will ultimately cause us to come up empty. Notice how the first person pronouns I, me, my dominate this section. The teacher was committed to the gratification of self-interest as a means of making sense of life. The ultimate failure of this approach To discover meaning is an important lesson for us. We need to realize that living for self is ultimately self-destructive. Until we learn this, we will find it unnatural to reach out to help others and essential. Until we learn this, we will find it unnatural to reach out to others, an essential step in recovery. We need to realize that living for self is ultimately self-destructive. Wow. Until we learn this, we will find it unnatural to reach out to others, to help others, an essential step in recovery. Ecclesiastes. In Ecclesiastes, the teacher addresses the workaholic. Work is valuable, even necessary, to our well-being. Yet, a compulsive commitment to work will lead to distraction. The teacher gives us a number of reasons why looking to work for ultimate meaning is a fruitless endeavor. 1. We don't know who will succeed us. We don't know who will succeed us in our work. 2. The one who inherits our work will not be the same person for it as we did. 3. And the emotional and physical costs of workaholism are greater than its benefits. 2 was the one who inherits our work will not have the same passion for it as we did. The emotional and physical costs of workaholism are greater than its benefits. Wow, the one who inherits our work will not have the same passion for it as we did. Ecclesiastes makes it clear that if we allow work to control our life, we will end up alone. This compulsion will cut us off from the significant relationships necessary to enjoy life. In later years, even if we are successful, we will probably have no one to enjoy it with. It is very important that we reconcile and strengthen the relationships God has given us. This is important for our recovery and ultimate enjoyment of life. Insights to our identity as human beings. So nice that you can see the birds easier now that there's no leaves on the branches. Sunbathing. We are told in Ecclesiastes that eternity has been planted in our hearts. This refers to our innate human desire for ultimate meaning in life. Yet in this life, our perspective and understanding are limited. We can't always understand why we suffer. It is like looking at the underside of an oriental rug. All we see are knots and loose ends. We can only faintly make out the rug's patterns. This is a key issue in recovery. We must not allow the things we can understand to drag us down. God tells us in the Bible how to live with joy and meaning. Ecclesiastes, so insights about God. Ecclesiastes assumes an important truth. God is approachable. He has established way for us to draw near to Him. In the Old Testament, people approached God by worshiping in His temple. Now that Jesus Christ has come, we can approach God directly wherever we are. He desires to help us as we struggle with recovery. We are warned about how we should come before God. We must never make rash promises or take Him for granted. We are to approach Him with humble reverence and a grateful heart. Insights for real life. When we are reminded in Ecclesiastes of how important our commitments are, when we make a commitment to God or another person, we need to take it very seriously. This reflects an important principle in recovery, being accountable for the promises we make. If we fail to keep our commitment to recovery, we will cause the people close to us even deeper pain. We will also be headed for destruction. It might help us to realize that God takes the commitment we make very seriously. In Ecclesiastes, the teacher does not suggest that we compromise our commitment to righteousness. We all know how destructive sin can be. This was probably the teacher's way of suggesting that we avoid extremes in all areas of our life, but it also served as a literal warning against being so heavenly minded that we are not earthly good. I'm going to read that again. The teacher, in Ecclesiastes, the teacher does not suggest that we compromise our commitments to righteousness. We all know how destructive sin can be. This was probably the teacher's way of suggesting that we avoid extremes in all areas of our lives, but it also served as a literal warning against being so heavenly minded. But it also served as a literal warning against being so heavenly minded that we are no earthly good. We can become so caught up in following the letter of the law that we fail to fulfill the spirit of the law. There are dangers in being too religious. Yeah. All right, that's it for right now. Next is Songs of Songs. Courtship, marriage and ceremony. Marriage ceremony and consummation. Conflict and separation. Resolution and strengthening of love. To tell of purpose, to tell of the law between a bridegroom and his bride, affirming the sanctity of marriage and the richness of physical love. The people, oh, this is gonna be interesting to learn. Why is it called Songs of Songs? Oh, I know why it's called. That's short too. Should we go for it now? And then we have Isaiah. Then comes Isaiah. %. No, I need a break because my brain is going too fast, and I don't like to read when I'm going too fast because I miss on it. Maybe I'll come in the afternoon. No, I'm gonna be busy in the afternoon. It's already afternoon, 1:41. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. So you guys have a wonderful day. They're doing road construction back there, see? And I'm missing out on it. Yeah, I'm missing out on it. That's okay. God's got a different plan for me. He's got a completely different plan for me, so I gotta follow his plan. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. I don't want to leave. I want to stay here for a little while. I just don't want to keep reading because I'm going too fast. I don't know. I feel like I'm cutting myself short from this sun, from this feeling. That's what it is having read through Ecclesiastes. It's yeah, time to meditate. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day. See you later.